I'm Maria Nodoff from the Orangevale History Project. This is our videographer, Ken Benedict. And we're here today at the Shoemaker home in Orangevale to interview Carol about her life and activities in Orangevale. So Carol, would you mind telling us what year you were born and where you were born?
I was born in 1943 in Modesto, California.
Thank you. And where are your parents from?
My mom is from Alabama. My birth father, I have no idea. My stepfather was born in California.
Mm-hmm. So how was it that you came to settle in Orangevale? And what year was that?
For 4.5 years, my first husband and I, he worked for the state. We traveled all over. We moved 37 times in 4.5 years.
Wow.
And the daughter is getting close to school age, so we bought a house at Rancho Cordova. And then we got horses. And the horses were boarded out on Jackson Highway. And that was fine for a while, but things started happening, like he did not pay the water bill. So I'm having to haul water from home to water 2 horses. Then the horses aren't being fed, so I said, I gotta find a place. And ideally, if I could have just moved that other house to a new location. So I found this place, and I didn't like the house. I still don't like the house, but it's a beautiful piece of property. My horses moved in a month before I did. We bought the owner's cow. He had a polled Hereford 4-H project cow and had a little bull calf at her side. And that was in November of 1974.
1974.
And they were members of Twin Lakes Riding Club. And during that period, somebody sponsored you to be a member. And so even before we moved in, my daughter and I met him at the meetings, and he introduced us, and we filled out the application. And a month after we moved in here, we were official members of Twin Lakes Riding Club.
So it existed before you were here?
Twin Lakes Riding Club has existed. It's been a corporation since 1961.
It's the first time we've got a date on that one.
Right. Right. So, is most of your life in Orangevale then revolve around the riding club?
Yes.
We were told you were the person to talk to about getting that history.
I have the history. I have all of the stuff out in the workshop. Some of it, we used to bring it to the meetings. Some of this stuff when I was writing, when we rededicated the flagpole, because that flagpole originally stood at the old state fairgrounds. And so it needed to be refurbished, and the county did help us out in that area, and Sue Frost wanted a history. So when I was going through some of the papers, I found that they are very brittle. And at some point, somebody has gone through and removed some things, but now I don't take anything to the meetings. And the people now have changed, so they're not as interested. They're more now people than what we've had in the past. So I will just keep it here, along with electric light bulbs, water valves, and treasure, horse show ribbons. Hopefully we will be having horse shows this year. God needs to rain on us some more and give us a lot more snow.
Yes, that would be lovely.
Can
So-
you tell us
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
about anything more before 1961, or how was that property gotten?
They weren't on that property. They rented or people owned. The original people that started this club were not families. It was husband and wives. It was later that families started. Now it's pretty much, for years, was family oriented, and now we're kind of going back to how it originally started. Because families, for one, don't have the family cohesiveness that, If you said, okay, we're going over here tonight, they all went. Now everybody goes in different directions. And so now there's not as many children. In fact, there's very few, which is kind of bad for the club. Because if you don't have the children there, you don't have the parents there, which means that they're running out of workers. Us old people are dying off. There's none of our old husbands are around anymore. And so we do have a couple of guys that actually come and work at the club, because there's a lot to do over there. There's a lot to maintain that property, and not a lot of hands to do it.
So go back to before 61. So where was the riding club?
Well, the only one I know for sure is about 3 properties, or maybe 2 properties to the west. They had an open arena there. I understand they were someplace else, but there's really not many. Dana Anderson might know, because Dana's parents were in the club, and then she became a member as soon as she graduated from high school. So she is our oldest member. Not by age, because I think I'm a little older than she is, and there's several people still older than me. But
Did they donate? Did someone donate that property?
no, the club bought the property. And I forget which year. We could find it in one of our newsletters that it was paid off, but we had a big mortgage burning celebration over at the arena. There was a lot of beer drank and a lot of barbecuing going on. That property originally came from that old Italian family that owns, I can't think of their name, Fresnetti, or anyway, that owned all of the property up there. That was part of it. So that property does belong to Twin Lakes Riding Club.
How I should know, I live on that street, but how many acres is that?
I believe it's 3.1.
And that includes the field in front, the arena, and the practice arena?
Yeah.
And all that fencing and buildings was built by the volunteers?
And most of it ended up being pretty much free, because unlike today, people back there, we didn't have money to spend on stuff like this. But that, I don't know if that snack shack was part of an old service station, but I think they probably got it free or next to nothing. And everybody chips in with, I got this, I got that, and it's built. And I gave him 25 gallons of paint a few years ago. You know, I don't paint anymore. I don't have a husband. And he bought all this paint, and so I donated to the club. So yeah, those buildings look a lot like the stuff here that's painted. But free is free, so we do what we can. The light bulbs, you cannot, for our arena, you cannot buy those anymore. But Carol Walden was in Folsom one day, and I believe it was at the old high school, and they were changing their lights, and they were throwing away, those bulbs turn dark even if they still work. They were throwing away some bulbs and putting this new type in. So she salvaged a bunch of bulbs, and that was in her barn until they sold their house. Now they're in my barn, along with the water valves, the extra valves. There's 3 of them in a box in the workshop. But we don't discard stuff, and we remake things to make them work. When they built those houses behind us, they changed the water line, which greatly affected our water pressure. And so we have a big pump over there that when the sprinklers come on, and we can only run 1 sprinkler at a time, so it's a huge arena. The minute the sprinkler comes on, the pump comes on. And we still cannot water the center. And it's going to be worse this year, because I noticed a huge, probably a year ago, I noticed a drop in my water pressure. But I was gone for a couple of weeks, into January and the first part of this month, and I noticed when I come back, my water pressure is even less than it was. So they're trying to conserve. You know, people still don't think anything about just turning the water on and letting it run down the kitchen sink. So.
Do you have a lot of helpers to help with the field, the maintenance?
No.
My dad used to help out.
Your mom used to ride with us.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember when your mom got bucked off in the blackberry bushes over by, I shouldn't laugh, but and I was laughing because I could still see her in that thing of the blackberries, almost like a hammock, and she can't get out. And she's up off the ground. We were over at Sunrise and along the river, and we had come back, and I don't know what happened, because we were just all kind of sitting on our horses talking, and the next thing, her horse threw her in the blackberry bushes. The guys had a hard time getting her out because she had no feet on the ground, and I'm sure she got really scratched up, but it was kind of funny.
Someday I'll remind her of that.
And I have a big chunk of rose quartz out here that we went with your mom and dad to, they were going to show us Nassau, and we met them at North Edwards. And it was a bad storm, and in fact, when we started up Tehachapi's, I didn't want to go. It was too scary. It was raining like you can't believe, and a little bit of snow, and the wind was blowing like this. So we get there and meet up with your dad, and they had a place for us to park on the property there, and then we were going to go see their Nassau facilities and stuff, and they were evacuating because of the flood. So from there we went to Quartzsite. And my husband went with your dad to some flea market, and I was just walking around the main event there, and it was the time when they have the gem show, so they have tons of rocks, and this beautiful piece of quartzite, or rose quartz, and it's got a fracture in it that I don't know what the minerals are. Almost looks like gold. And she laughed when they got back that while they were gone, I went and bought this rock. So, you know, we've had a lot of good times.
Do you do many trail rides, or is it just arena events?
Twin Lakes Riding Club has changed tremendously because us old group don't ride anymore. Mostly because we're not physically not able to. And the new people only want to ride in an arena. And if the arena itself is too wet, the warm-up arena is on higher ground. But there's no fence. So we haven't had a trail ride in 5 or 6 years. We can't even get enough together to do a color guard because nobody knows how to carry a flag. It makes me want to cry. I can laugh at some of it. We have a riding club that nobody can ride outside the arena. We don't do trail rides. We don't do the campouts that we used to do. It's sad. And they have no idea what they're missing. We had such a close-knit group. We do these at least one, during the summer months, we do at least one camp out a month.
Where would you go?
Oh, we have been all over. Your Ranch, places, Caps Crossing. I never wanted to go back there again. That was the dirtiest place we've ever been. And I didn't have fun riding because it was too dusty. Oh, man. You couldn't see the rider in front of you. You get on a downhill and you couldn't see where you're going. If that horse in front of you went off a cliff, oh well, you'd be right behind him. Your ranch was kind of my favorite place. That was up out of Truckee. But we've gone all over to the coast. I know that you remember Martha Warner. Her good friend, Mrs. White, I can't think of her first name, owned the property right there at Airport Road, 80 acres, comes right out to Highway 1. So she would bring in porta potties for us, and we would all camp there. And one night she would have destruction derby. Everybody else paid. We were campers. We had to watch for free. We just ride down, and you're right there on the 10-mile beach. And McCarricker, you could just go. We had a lot of fun. A lot of good memories.
Yeah, my folks had a lot of good stories about the riding events.
Mm-hmm. You know, and always around the campfire, and a lot of good food and a lot of nice people.
Years ago, there was also a second riding club called the Vaqueros. Do you remember
Now,
that?
those I don't know anything about.
Okay.
Carol Walden might remember, but I don't know anything about them. You know, the only other club that I knew even a smidgen about was Orangevale. I forget what they called themselves. They raised a lot of money for the Orangevale Park, and they paid for that arena and the bleachers. And there was like $7,600 left. And I happened to be at one of the meetings with your brother, and they have this money and they don't know. And I said, I know where it came from, and you better go back and see, because there's restrictions applied to that money and how you can spend it. I think that's where the new fencing and stuff went around the warm-up arena over there, and they did a couple other, because it was all tied to that arena. Next door was very active in that, so she kept me up on what was going on. The club itself, way back, was very involved in county activities. They did searches for the county police. There's newspaper articles in there regarding, can't think of the sheriff's name, the one that was so infamous about some of his behavior. Yes, can't think of his name. Anyway, the club itself was quite active, but you have to remember it was adults, and it was the men. When I go back and read like our original, before we started messing with our bylaws and Constitution, they had to have, I think one or two of the members were attorneys. Because the way it's written, and there's no indication that they paid an attorney to drop those documents.
Sheriff John Misterly.
Yes, yes, that's the man. But some of the club members were quite involved in that, and that got our name out, just out of the community, because it was in the Bee and the Sacramento Union.
So you helped with search and rescue on horseback.
Yep.
Wow.
See, us ladies, do you, I don't know how long you've been here, but we've had problems down at the park. They had some. He's not a streaker. He would come out of the bushes when the little girls were out there naked and stuff. So us girls were going to find out when he was most apt to show up, and we were going to go down there.
Welcome him.
On horseback and run his bare butt through the blackberry bushes. That maybe he'd go to a new location.
Did you find him?
They caught him right before, because Donna Peck and I and her sister-in-law, we were going to I said, I can take a day off work, no big deal.
That's marvelous. So you hunt down outlaws and
Well, an outlaw is one thing, but somebody messing with the kids, whole different story. And there's nothing like the mama bears coming out.
So around what years was this? Was this during the 60s and 70s?
Well, it has to be probably in the late 70s. Because didn't join the club. My membership was official December of 74.
Oh, that's right. So, did you have parties, like Christmas parties and...
Well, they started calling it a Christmas party. It was actually installation of officers, and originally it was a formal event, and children were not allowed. And then that started changing, and then nobody wanted to go because, it was too sterile, or it was too this, or... Anyway, we don't do that anymore.
Where do you meet?
For years, we met at, we have used the cafeteria at Bella Vista, that school over there, I think it's on Illinois. We met there for a while, and unfortunately it's an elementary school, and it's very hard for us people to sit in those little desks. I was real skinny then, but it was even tight for me. But for the men, it was really hard. We used the cafeteria at Casa for a long time. We met at the old community center on the other side of Hazel. And then for a long time, we met at the community center. But they have priced themselves out. They do not look at you're part of the community or that you are just a little club. And we can't afford way over $100 for a meeting. So one of our club members has got a house in the gated community across from the strawberry thing, and she's got a big 4-car garage. And that garage is immaculate. So we meet in her garage. And our board meetings, we meet at different people's homes. Usually it was mine and DeSarno's, but right now I have no place to seat anybody. And it's not looking good. It's
oddly enough, the Orangevale Community Center has a stage on the far north. It's an outdoor stage with a seated area for grass, tapered grass. They don't charge for that.
Well, when the weather is nice during the summer, we just meet at the arena. We've got our bleachers, and we just set up another table, and it's convenient. Parking's right there, so, and there's no expense there. But with the kind of weather we're having now, so the Randy had contacted me. Probably been a year ago. We've been meeting there for a long time, maybe longer than that, and said, I don't get to come and help very much because of my job. And she said, but you're perfectly welcome. And I said, well, what about your neighbors? She said, I live in a cul-de-sac and it's just me and one other house because the other part's a creek and brush. So it's really nice because we can just pull in there. Everybody can park. We don't have to worry about blocking anything. And it doesn't cost us anything.
What was the involvement, or were you involved with powwow days?
Yes.
What was that like?
Hard. Really hard. We were financially really strapped, and Lisa Montez made us an offer. And it's like getting help for anything else. You still have your little group. So I would be getting up at 5 or 6 in the morning. I had started my other refrigerator out in the barn, so I had all of the extra stuff out there, and all of the extra buttons up on shelves. And it was hard. And that first year that we did it, we would have made a lot more money if we hadn't had that first day with the rain and the lightning. And And the next year we did okay. I was only getting 4 hours sleep a night, and I'm getting a little too old to do that. But it was fun. The kids there, the teenagers, some of them are so awesome. And you know, we know a lot of our kids don't pay attention to money, but I hear them shouting, "Hey, don't buy that water over here. She's only selling it for $1." So we probably made more money on water than on anything else. I don't think it tied us to the community any better, because I didn't recognize, I think a lot of the people there are not from our community. So
Were you part of the parade?
we did the parade for years. Over in our sign-up booth and who knows where else, there's a bunch of trophies. I rode in the parade for a long time. We've tried to get a color guard, but like I say, those of us that ride and that can carry a flag, we don't ride. I mean, I've got some severe neck issues as when I quit riding my own horse, because I could paralyze myself just accidentally falling off. So I said, that's enough. Nobody can carry a flag. I don't know what the big deal is. I never thought about it. I just walked around my horse a couple of times, got on, picked it up, and stuck it in the boot, and okay, we're going.
Your riding club has 3 types of events, I think. Gymkhana, English,
And Western.
and Western.
However, we're going back to the way it was when I joined the club. We have been losing money totally on Western for the last 3 to 4 years. Now, we haven't had horse shows for 2 years because of the lack of water. I know some of the people don't agree with me, but I have a real hard time putting water on dirt so that we can ride on it when we don't have water for our gardens. And it rankled a few people, and the ones that rankled the most are not the ones that come and do the work. So that it's really hard to get any sympathy, especially from me, when the only time you show up is when you want to gripe. So we're going to try this year, but what I saw a couple of days ago is scary. It was Channel 13, and it was on the 10 o'clock news, that at the beginning of January, we were 138% of average, the snowpack and stuff. Beginning of February was 60%, or 80, take it back, 80%, with no snow or rain in the forecast. I know people keep saying, well, it's climate change, The Earth has changed climate since it was here. It has always been evolving. We have had droughts, we've had ice ages, and maybe because I just paid close attention to things, but I've been seeing this for years. When I moved here, our rain was really heavy in the first part of November, when the ground was still warm and we had the real heavy ground fog. If you notice my mailbox, I've got reflectors on the post. I'd be coming home from work in the wintertime, I couldn't find my driveway. So when you hit that high spot, and as soon as you went down, the headlights would hit those reflectors. That's my driveway, don't lose it. That hasn't happened. We haven't had that type of fog in years. But what I see more and more, yes, our rain kind of starts in December, but in the last few years, it quits at the end of February or January. And that's not enough rain, and it's not enough snow. And especially that we keep bringing in more and more people. So I was in a lot of contact with San Juan Water last year, and because of our governor, they would not come out and declare it a state of emergency, and we've been under water restrictions when we had more water than we had last year. I know, because on my watering days, I could only water during the hours I was at work, so I slept on the couch and went out and watered by hand with my little timer set at night. So I know what it's like. I think that was in '76 when we were in the extreme drought. So I have sent an email to the little gal there that reports directly to Tobin what they're anticipating, because last year we set up the shows and then had to cancel them. And I don't want to have that go out. If we set up the shows, I think that when we first put them on Facebook and put them on our website, that we need to say that this is a tentative schedule due to the water. It's sad, but is what it is.
So you're dropping the Western shows.
When I joined the club, they had performance. It was Western and English combined. And then when the shows got so big, you could not do both at one day. And we split them. And for a long time, both of them did really well. Western started to wane. English got really big. We had 12-hour shows a couple of times.
For English? Wow.
Got there at 7 in the morning, and I got home a little after 9 at night. For an old lady who is dragging her backside coming in. And yes, we did quite well. But the last few years, there again, there's a lot of factors that have to do with the horse shows anyway. Western, we lost our older riders. The 18 and over, pretty much if you see, we get any anymore, they are trainers training somebody else's horse. And part of that training is actually taking them to schooling shows so they get used to the noise and the activities and stuff. English just started dropping off. There's a big cost involved because Gymkhana, everybody owns their horse. Western, it used to be 90% of the kids owned their horse. Some were there with the trainers, and so they were cost mom and dad paying more money because they're paying for the use of that horse at a show, plus paying for being at the show. English has always been, especially in the 17 and under group, and almost 100% in the 12 and under, they're riding the trainer's horse. They don't have their own horse. So you have to cater to the trainers. And even the trainers are saying they don't have as many students. I don't know if the kids are doing something different. It's expensive, but anything the kids do these days is expensive. I know that they can get scholarships with soccer. It's very difficult unless you're already a money person to get a scholarship for equine. So
I was helping out on a couple of shows once.
I was there.
And
I was there. I was in the snack shack.
yes, you were. And I noticed something kind of interesting, because the gals down at the bottom, Mary Ellen and a couple others, were writing down the entrance and the details and stuff like that, and they would send it up with on a string to the upper section. But the young kids couldn't read handwriting written in script.
Oh yes, but you know what? I have never seen Mary Ellen yell at one of those kids. They got snippy with her one night at Gymkhana, but threw it back down. Put it back on the clip and threw it down and said, "We can't." And it was a courtesy that we were letting these younger ones be up there. We had an adult up there with them. Mary Ellen yelled at them, told them to get down from up there, and until they learned how to read real writing, not to come back. Whoa!
Whoa!
It was like, and I'm just over there. I was standing outside. I was just smirking. Because I didn't realize they weren't teaching cursive for a long time, because my daughter's gone, you know, she's grown and gone. And I said, "What do you mean? They don't know how to sign their name?" "No. They can." I said, you mean we're going back to the X and have to have, I said, this country, I can't believe this country is going backwards. Now, I heard a couple years ago they were thinking about starting cursive again, but they need to start, and they also need to stress the importance. It doesn't have to be fancy, but it needs to be legible. You know, I know that they use debit cards and stuff, so do I, but there's sometimes you need to use a check. How do you sign your name? Okay, you can print out the check, but how do you sign your name? And my handwriting, you can read. My printing, oh no, it's terrible. Quit.
I noticed it was kind of odd that one day.
Oh yeah.
There's a new arena east of you, the big blue one.
Oh, Big Sky.
Big Sky. Has that had any effect on you? Or should we discuss it?
Apparently when they first opened, they let a couple of people come on their property, and then, you know, they just said they were horse people and they wanted to get acquainted, and then they were told they're not welcome there. I don't know. My understanding is that the money that the little Olympian Perry is what paid for that. She rode in our shows when she was a kid, so you know, but I don't know. If you look around compared to what Orangevale used to be, there's not many horses left. I don't know how many times I'd come home and they'd be somebody's horse on my front pasture, and my daughter would be home. She says, was running down the street. So, you know, we'd stick it in the front pasture and close the gate so they couldn't come down the lane and go in the back. And there was, on the other side of Orangevale School, there's a little barn in the back, just past the old Victorian that they've been working on for 3 or 4 years. So that was a boarding place for a while, and there was always the fuzzy wuzzies. January, here come these kids on these little dirty, ragged-looking ponies heading for the park. You don't see that anymore. There's nobody riding down the streets. It's kind of sad.
When I rode a horse, you used to be able to ride anywhere around Orangevale, but now there's so many fences, you can't.
Actually, Mary next door and I, one day, we had gone down American River Drive, but I don't think it was American River Drive then. Anyway, we crossed Greenback, came up a little bit. I don't know if I would recommend anybody doing this, but we went down from up there. It's not a great trail. I don't think that there had been many horses, but we got down and we were riding up, and we got down to where you turn and go toward Folsom Auburn. You're on the other side of Folsom Auburn Road. And they were working on some property that belongs to the prison, and the fences were down. Let's go. And we could see the guards. We rode but it was a nice view. You could see everything and all the old stonework at the prison. So we rode all over it. She says, you think they'll come after us? I said, probably not. We're not that interesting. So, yeah, there's a lot of places that you can ride, and there's a lot of places where you probably could ride, but the residents that their property backs up don't want any horse manure around, so. Nothing like good horse manure for the tomatoes, huh, sweetie?
There's a new law that came in this year in January about horse riding. And it was dealt with wearing a helmet. Have you encountered that?
We require in Gymkhana the kids, I forget what the age, it may be 12 and under, to wear a helmet, and that it has to be an approved helmet. But what people don't realize that English riders with their cute little velvet have always worn a helmet. Some of them don't have the full chin strap and safety thing, but and I understand there's even some Western hats now that have a helmet built into it.
I've seen those.
Have you?
They look good.
Yeah.
Yeah, they look
Thing
pretty good.
is that it's pricey. All of this stuff is pricey, and so by the time you get your horse show clothing, and Gymkhana, it's not so strict, but for Western and English, you need the proper attire. So when you start adding helmets and stuff, I personally think that the kids that are jumping, and that includes primarily the teenagers, they need to have a vest under their jacket. Most of my experience with my daughter and the horse has not been the head, it's been other parts of the body. So, I hate to see what is happening to Orangevale. It makes me very unhappy. And this new state law where they can come and bulldoze down a house, even in a subdivision, and put up. We don't need people crammed on top of each other. When you cram rats together, they start killing each other. And what are we seeing in these communities that are overpopulated? Seeing all kinds of crime, violent crime. And then when I see somebody like the property down the street, that they got their education from that farmland, and now they want to put 43 houses on it. And it's wrong. It's just totally wrong. You know, I could sell off my back acre, let the driveway go back. I wouldn't like it, and I don't think my neighbor would like it. The only reason I got the goats is because I didn't have horses anymore. My idea of retirement was going to be when I couldn't ride anymore. There's always ads for somebody that wants to give away an old horse. I would have taken one or two. I've got really good pasture. I've got 2 really nice barns. But I just can't do it anymore. It's become, since I can't move quickly, and I don't care how tame a horse is, how well broke they say they are, every once in a while their little pea brain rolls over, and you need to just step away and let them be stupid, and then when they get over it, go back. I can't get out of their way anymore. So, and I've been trying to think of something else to have out in the pasture, because I just hate to see the pastures empty. I've given the front pasture to the chickens, and I need to get some more hens because I have a problem next door.
Did you ever meet Mr. Tomich?
Oh, yes.
Been here a long time, and
Tom? Yes.
yes, Tom Tomich.
Yes. He even came over and showed me how to, he said I'd prune the grapes for you, but that's when his knees were getting so bad and he couldn't get on the ladder. But he showed me how to prune my grapes. Taught me how to do that. I guarded the, before he put the fence up, he didn't care if the kids picked fruit and ate it. What he cared about is if they broke the tree or if they just picked the fruit and threw it on the ground. But we even had ATVs. I go out there and yell at them, "I'm calling the sheriff now, get out of there." And then I'd call him. And he told me, he says, "Carol," he says, "that's so dangerous." And I said, if you look at any area where people don't stand up for their rights, that's when the criminals take over. And I said, I will always stand up for my community and my rights. So I just became one of his, maybe days that I'd find a bucket on my front porch. You know, when they pick, they'd drop it off.
Mm-hmm.
And then when the boys made Vicky close the orchard, there was still fruit to be sold. They wanted to sell everything right away. Vicky called me one day and she says, it's on a Sunday, she says, can you come down? And I said, sure. So I went down, and my favorite peach, she had a whole lug of the premium peaches for me. And I felt so sorry for her, because a couple of times I go down and get fruit to make, Larry's a diabetic, so I make him freezer jam with Splenda. So I'd go down and buy the seconds, and one day she was crying and her husband was there, and she introduced me to him, and she said, I don't understand this. And I said, people change when it involves money, and the worst things come out of them. She said, I just don't understand it. I said, it happened in my family. I said, I don't understand it. I said, my sister turned into a lying witch. And my parents thought they had everything all set up. I could have put a stop to it. It's like, it wasn't worth the, but they were seeing what was happening there too. That was just, it's sad. But it's sad to see all of the traffic that's happening here. Yes, small businesses are good, but we don't need to turn this all into a business district. And I'm sure you guys all know that they're trying to turn all of Hazel all the way down to commercial property, all the way to the county line.
Yeah.
I came very, very close to selling the house a few months back.
But you kept it.
Well, I got an $800,000 offer for the house. I have another house, and I really thought seriously about moving to Oregon. And I might still. But I have all of my close friends here. It makes it really difficult. You know, I've been here a long time. I have a lot of friends in the community, and the writing club, those friends, those are like family.
Yeah, that's hard to leave.
You know, Mary Ellen's youngest daughter called me. And we had been in contact from the time Mary Ellen went into the hospital. And I knew the minute I answered the phone, because Mary Ellen was actually getting better. And then all at once. See, and nobody knew how old she was. She would have been 91 in another month. And I've never seen her, except when she yelled at the kids a couple of times. Anytime she greeted anybody, she was always a very happy, happy person. And that was truly her. Mm-hmm. It wasn't a show. That was who Mary Ellen was.
Anything else you want to add about the writing club or your life here?
I wouldn't trade my life here for any place else. This has always been a great place. Good place to have your animals. We've had a lot of animals here. Horses, cows, goats, sheep, chickens.